Hey, everybody. Good evening. Hopefully, we're going to be joined soon by Robert and Michael, and we're going to be able to talk about natural law. And yeah, Robert, if you see a button to push to join, hit that button, and we'll get this party started. Um, let's see here. Yeah, so I think, Robert, you're going to find a little button that comes along there that says want to join. Oh, you said no button to join. All right, well, there should be a, down where all the names are scrolling, there should be one that comes up that says want to join, Jeff. And as soon as that scrolls up, then you can hit it, and hopefully that gets it going. Ah, yes, yes. Maybe because it's on a computer that it's not letting you click that button or join. That makes sense. Well, we may have to. All right. Well, Robert's gonna download the app and see if he can do it from there. I bet that'll work. All right. So I'm just gonna get this party started here and just tell you what's going on. So there's a revolution happening right now in medicine, in law, and in spirituality. And I have been, that's all right, Robert, don't worry about it. I have been, this last year, I feel like I've really been patched in to all the right people in terms of medicine and understanding, that stuff like ivermectin right now is solving a lot of people's problems without any side effects. And spiritually, just been amazed by what's happening in terms of everybody moving up to these new places and getting rid of their old stuff. But the law component has been a little difficult for me. And one of the things I initially heard of was something called common law. And there's all these videos on common law and people using common law to not have to answer police when they're chasing them down. There's, simple wording like, I do not understand and I do not consent. And am I obligated to speak with you right now? And that all sounded great. And then somebody turned me on to some videos from some people talking about natural law. I had not heard of natural law. I'd only heard of common law. And so these natural law experts were talking about how much more effective it was than common law, and that it's tied into equity, and that who we are viewed as people by the state, by the federal government, is very different than how we would think we're viewed. For example, they view us as slaves, and we are locked into the system, and they hook us in with a birth certificate and a marriage license, and then they think they own us. And so then we have to go about the practice. Let's see. We have to go about the practice of unhooking from that. And it's fairly detailed, and it involves filling out a lot of work. But in the meantime, it's possible to use natural law just in conversations with police officers and with other people. So Um, I think, Robert, you might be in or it's trying to connect with you. Wow, we did it. And you're just coming into focus now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. It's a
Yeah,
little,
I apologize.
it's okay, man.
Is it hard to hear?
No, hearing's great. It's a little blurry, and I'm not worried about that.
All right, good.
Probably protects you
Yeah,
even more.
I don't know why it's blurry. That's kind of odd, but we'll go with it. I do not do social media. I got off of Facebook back in like November. That was the second time I got off Facebook, and it's not even. I'm not worried about the tracking and all. They're tracking us everywhere. I'm just like I'm just tired of it, you know. So anyhow, that's why I got off. So I
Yeah,
apologize, everybody. I've never even been on Instagram, so bear with me.
right on, right on. Well, Robert, I was just telling them a little bit about natural law, and I'm not
Mhm.
super familiar with it. I wanted to ask you how you got started in natural law. What sort of attracted you to it?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say natural law that I was attracted to as much as law. Um, what got me started, so everybody's waking up and they're going, what are these people doing? Well, that happened to me 12 years ago when my parents got foreclosed on. Their house was up for foreclosure.
Wow.
I was a contractor, been a carpenter since the age of 13. My dad taught me carpentry. And I knew something was wrong. And I was like, this isn't right with my parents' foreclosure. So they took it upon themselves because they just didn't trust the legal system. They didn't want to hire an attorney. They didn't trust anybody. And I don't blame them, especially now knowing what I know. So they started really looking into the mortgage. All mortgages are fraudulent. Okay, every single one. There's not a single mortgage out there that's not. And I mean, no offense to the people in the mortgage industry and what you believe, because you work it every day. It's a fraud. Okay, and I've got high level bankers that have quit their jobs and will admit that it's all a fraud. Okay, so that got me started because I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about, mom and dad? How's that a fraud? I mean, they got forensic auditing done that showed that their note was sold several times, way more than what they paid for the house. So why are we paying mortgages when the note, which is our note, is being sold three times the amount of the house, and the bank is paid already? What do they need money from us for? They just got paid three times, right? So I really wanted to find out. My mom and dad started getting into all these conspiracy theories, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I need to see the facts. That's why I have all these law books behind me, because I needed to dive in and find out, what are these people really talking about? Is there merit to it? And where are the records? Where is the law? How do I know what's what? So I got into common law at first, and that just led me down all these roads where I started experimenting with these legal theories in courtrooms, helping people with their court cases of all kinds. Nothing criminal. I would never help anybody that's done any harm to anyone. These are all trumped up, bogus civil charges, as well as I've done some criminal stuff too, because I've been a victim of that. So I understand that most crimes in this country are not even crimes. So that's what got me started. And you know, it's just been amazing. I mean, the things I could go over with people would blow most people's
And
minds.
did you ever
So,
go through the law degree process of going to school and getting a degree?
nope,
Don't even
nope.
need to, right?
I had no clue that I would even be interested in this. Okay, in law, like that was the last thing on my. I was a musician, moonlighting as a musician at night, and a carpenter with a family. You know, and I just couldn't. I couldn't let it go. I just had to keep studying and keep studying and keep studying. So. Um, so anyway, that's how I got here. And you don't need a law degree to understand the law. You need a law degree so that you can understand the process and procedure of the double tongue legal speak terms of art that is the legal system. The legal system is not based, well, don't let me say that. Legal system's based on law, but most of what people think is law doesn't apply to them. It only applies to them because they misunderstand who they are in the law. That's what's really important. Understanding who
Bingo.
you are in the law is super important. And most of us have no idea who we are in the law. We think that we are free Americans, and nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing. Nothing is. There's no freedom. There's no, unless you have a particular status, and I don't mean an elite status. I mean an American citizen versus a U.S. citizen citizenship. Okay, and I can get into that too if people want to argue about, well, what do you mean a U.S. citizen's an American citizen? It is not. All you got to do is read the 14th Amendment. Tells you there's two citizenships: one state, one federal. The United States citizen was created for the slaves after the Civil War because they had no state and they weren't allowed to vote. So the federal government said, we will create a citizenship for them and they will be our citizens and belong to Washington, D.C. Okay, so that's a United States federal citizen. That's a United States citizen. So every time we fill out that we're a United States citizen, we're saying we live in D.C. and they have exclusive jurisdiction over us. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
Crazy.
And then you certify it.
Yeah.
You certify it as soon as, you sign on that. So, then you get into the birth registration. You're not a U.S. citizen at birth. You're a state citizen. Then you're a U.S. citizen. Okay. And they create a U.S. citizen for you, which is what your Social Security account is linked to, right? Then you completely think that you're the U.S. citizen when you're not. So anyway, this took me years and years to really wrap my head around exactly how it works and to be able to, completely use it to my advantage and to everybody else's advantage to protect them.
Right.
So now we do all kinds of stuff. We set up trusts, we set up private member associations, 508 churches that are outside of the 501c3 jurisdiction, all that kind of stuff.
And the name of your company, if people want to find you, is?
It's REM Private Management, but my website is privateestatetrust.org, and you'll see that it's actually not. There's a little confusion. It's the House of Marcus right now, but we're getting ready to launch. But it's owned by REM Private Management. We're getting ready to launch an REM Private Management site with a bunch of services and packages and stuff that people can hire us for to help. Well, not actually, don't let me say that. Not hire us. It's a private member association. So you become a member. We have member packages, and then we help people, with their status, with setting up a PMA, setting up the church, trusts, whatever you need to protect yourself. That website is in the works right now. It's not fully built yet. So right now, House of Marcus, privateestatetrust.org. If you go in there, you have to sign my NDA. I don't do anything, without the NDA because it's all private. You can't get off my homepage without signing the NDA. It's not there to damage anybody. It's there to protect us and the people coming in. And there's a lot of information on there, so people can go there and.
And Robert, I just want to share my experience with law, real law. Mm-hmm. My wife and I went to another state for her to get treated at the end using some frequencies. And it was in a state where the person had on his front door, this is a private membership. If you are coming into this building, you are now a member and subject to everything within this building. So the Department of Health came into his building. And they read him the Riot Act, and they said, sir, you're practicing medicine without a license. And we are going to ask you to turn over all of your possessions right now. We are taking full charge. We've got a truck outside. We're bringing it in right now. And this guy looks right at him, and he goes, wow, you really don't understand what's going on here, do you? You just walked into a private membership. You're now threatening me. You're trespassing. I am now going to freeze all of your assets, and you're going to lose your job right now. And within like a day or whatever, this health department official not only lost his job, he lost access to all of his money. Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. This guy got a really rude awakening as to what real law is. And I saw that, and I read that thing on the door, and like for me, it's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me until he explained it. And then I was like, oh, I see. What you're doing is you're creating a safe space for yourself where you're protected. And so that got me into thinking that we can use the law to give ourselves a safe space. Is that in essence what you're going for?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the key there is, again, the private. Okay, people don't understand. Our entire lives are made public, so you have to separate yourself now from this birth
To
registration being
make
this
yourself
public
private.
entity and go into the private. So it's well, yeah, to declare it, yes, you definitely have to declare it, but you also have to live it. Okay, so there's a way to live private too. You know, again, any agent comes to you, I don't know you any information without counsel. The law says I need counsel. And I'm not answering anything. I don't care if it's FBI, CIA. I don't care if you drop out of the helicopter with guns. I can't answer anything for you. Sorry. And I can't sign anything. And I can't give you a name, a birth date, a social security number, any of that. So don't even bother asking.
Okay, this is beautiful. Brings me to my point right now. There's a lot of concern around the emergency use medical devices being mandated, which is illegal because we have a code, 21 U.S. Code 360 BBB-3, which states that informed consent must be given. We have the option to refuse any of these emergency use devices, which is the mask, the PCR test, the vaccine. And people are being threatened now with their jobs going to be taken if they don't do this. Children can't go to school if they don't do this. People can't shop if they don't do this.
Can I make a comment about using those codes? Okay.
Please.
Even using those codes, they're under the civil rights. You don't have civil rights. You have inalienable God-given rights. But if you trade them in for civil rights and you say these codes protect my civil rights, you just gave up all your rights by using that code. You have more rights by not using that code than you do using it, because that code doesn't apply to you. That only applies to U.S. citizens and employees of the government. See, for civil rights, not inalienable substantive rights. Okay, so civil rights are for federal citizens. They're not for free Americans. We already have all our rights intact. We just keep saying we're United States citizens and we don't have those rights.
Got it.
See,
So what?
now,
Go ahead.
so now, of course, everything being public, when you go into the grocery store, you know, now they use the grocery store as the law enforcement, right? Force the mask. You have to wear the mask. If you don't leave, it's our policy. You have to leave. Well, wait a minute. My religion says I can't wear a mask. It's against my religion. And if you're going to discriminate against me, there are civil rights laws for you that will penalize you for doing this to me who has substantive rights. So you better get your manager out here so we can discuss how much we're going to work this out for in court, because you're going to get slammed, you know, because it's not a law. It's Title 42, color of law, right? So Title 42 of the United States Code is color. There's a color of law section, okay? The color of law basically says that they cannot do anything to you under the color of law. Well, a mandate is not law. A governor's mandate is not a law. That it has to go through the legislature and all first, number one. Number two, it's got to apply to your specific citizenship, right? So it's not a law. So now you have a federal, and again, that is a civil rights thing, but you can bring that against them because they're in breach of their code, not because you have civil rights, but because you have inalienable rights underneath, you know, well, protected by the Constitution, if you will. I don't really get into Constitution. That's another story.
And is it inalienable rights? Is that the issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, inalienable or inalienable.
Inalienable.
Right? Because there's a lien on your rights, right? Inalienable. The etymology of these words is super important. The legal definitions of these words are super important. You have to really look at what these words mean. It's all terms of art, forked tongue, trickery, you know, back to the Bible, the devil, the whole bit. It's all there. The whole thing.
Okay, so there's two ways to go during this current thing where they're enforcing all this stuff or mandating all this stuff. One is to work within the system. One is to work outside of the system. And you're saying it's possible to work outside the system, and you basically just say, this is my religious right. I have a religious belief that says that I can't wear a mask, and that's it. You just go about your business. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can do stuff in this, you know, within the system, but you have to understand when you do that, you're subject to in the system. And they can pretty much smack you around the way that they want to because you're still in the system. You have to, so what's the Bible say? Come out of her, my people. You have to come out of the system to have any sort of rights that are equitable, right? Not common law. People all hung up on common law. No, no, no. The courts run concurrent jurisdiction. They run at law, which is common law, and equity. And equity says where the statute law and the common law conflict, which they always do. If you know what you're doing, those laws always conflict. Equity supersedes. So equity sits above all of that when those two law structures conflict. Okay. So we want to come out of her and use the equity and say, wait a minute, you don't have any right to do anything to me in my private capacity. And the biggest thing is, what's your name? Oh, first, middle, last. Well, only slaves have first, middle, last names. You don't have a first, middle, last name. You have your last name is your middle name because that's the last name that was given to you. You have a given name and a family name or a house name. The house name is granted, it's passed down, it's inherited, it's a lineage. Okay, what they call the surname. The given name comes from your family. It's your Christian given name. What they're doing is they're making us believe we have a first, middle, last name because that's the name of the birth registered organization that they created. And since that's their entity, because they created it, they took your likeness and your name and they used it to create another you, right? So look at all the statutes and codes. What's the definition in the statute for a person? A corporation, an LLC, a trust, a partnership, okay? They're all persons. They're legal persons. So when you're born, they create something that's almost, it's like a corporate soul, right? That's what it is, essentially, because it's only one person, but it's an organization. It's not you. It just uses your name and your identity. But the government created it and the government owns it legally. However, the beneficiary of that is you. And if you don't know you're the beneficiary, they're treating you like the trustee. And therefore, you have all the legal responsibility of the entity that they created with your name that you think is you. And it's not you. And the only thing they have to do to get you in their jurisdiction is get you to admit you're that name, or you live at an address in their jurisdiction, or you have a phone number tied to that name, or you have a social security number. As soon as you answer any of that, you just admitted that you're not free. You're the debtor to the United States because they own you through this organization created at birth. Okay, now years ago, people were like, you're nuts, that's crazy, this is conspiracy theory. But there are so many people right now that are so good with it. I mean, just shutting courts down, shutting people down. I mean, you know, shutting governments down with this stuff because the truth can't be denied. And they know what a lot of, well, not everybody knows what the truth. It's not like, you know, the guy working in the clerk's office is going to know the truth, right?
But the judge does, or a lot of judges.
A lot of judges, or they know enough to know when somebody like me comes in there that I will tell you right now their whole operation if I go into a court or anybody brings this up in court. If any of you try this that are watching it, I'm not giving you legal advice. You're on your own. But here's what they'll do. They will empty the courtroom. They will make you sit down, Then they will empty the courtroom. Then they will call you up loud so nobody hears what's going on. So when I started doing this, I was going into court as counsel for people, and I would bring 12 witnesses or more with me. So when they tried to empty the courtroom, I've got 12 witnesses sitting there. And I'd say, now, my court is in your court. Well, not me, because it usually wasn't my case, but my friend's court is in your court. So what are we going to do here? We have two courts speaking to each other, the superior court, which is ours, and the inferior court, which is yours. And I'll tell you, we've had judges get off the bench and run in the back. I mean, literally hide.
Oh, I love it.
You know?
I love it. All right.
So,
all right. I want to bring,
there's a lot to it.
I want to bring this down to earth now for a second for me and for the other people that are just getting going here. Cause we're still awakening. Let's talk for a second about going into Sprouts, for example. The manager stops you, says, sir, you have to wear a mask. You can't be in here. And you say, no, well, I want you to take me through the language of how you would talk. And then let's say he calls the police and the police are there, and then give me the language of how you would talk to the police officer.
Well, I would just say, look, okay, so first I would say, look, my religious beliefs do not allow me to wear a mask. And if you make me wear this mask, I'm committing a sin. And if they go, well, what religion is that? Well, that's private and none of your business, right? However, you can't deny me a right to get food here, or a service, I should say, not a right. You can't deny me a service based on discrimination of my religious beliefs. Well, it's the law. Well, actually, no, it's not the law. It's a mandate, and it's called color of law. Do you understand what color of law is, Mr. Clerk guy at the store? No. Well, you better get your manager or your legal department here right now so we can discuss this. You're going to have to leave. All I'm telling you is if I pursue this, I am going to shut this store down. Okay, so if you're going to make that call, I hope your boss realizes you're making that decision for them, right? Catch them right now. Well, we're going to call the police, and all of a sudden, you know, somebody's eyeing it up from over there, another employee, and they're on the phone like, we better get the cops here. Cops show up. Look, I'm in peace and honor. I don't know who you are, sir, and if they ask you your name, I'm sorry, I can't give that to you. You are required to give me your name, your badge, your number, and I'm not required to give you anything. Sorry, I'm not. And if you're going to force me to give you something, you're breaking the law, so you need to get your superior here right now, because I'm without counsel, and I don't have to answer any question from you because that's an investigation. Sorry, I didn't break any laws. Are you? Yes, you did. Oh, I did? Are you an attorney? Are you practicing law without a license? I mean, you just keep nailing them, you know? Now, if they want to get shitty with you, I mean, I would suggest, you know, saying, fine, you know what? I'm out of here. Because it's really not worth going to the next level. We have to handle this on a much bigger scale, you know? So nobody needs to go to jail. Because if you don't understand how to operate and do this stuff, and you go to jail, it's going to get ugly and it's going to get worse. But let's just say they decide they're going to cuff you. Here's the 3 rules of thumb I use. No information, no name, and no signature without counsel. Sorry. No name, no signature, no information. Okay? Now, get your superior down here. Let's talk to your superior. Hi, Mr. Superior. Look, I'm just trying to be a peaceful guy. I understand my rights very well. I'm very competent. So, you know, I'm not... what do they try to get you with too? In court, they'll try to get you with an incompetence. They'll try to throw on you a, what do they call that when they test you for incompetence? You know, that you need a psych evaluation, right? I don't need a psych evaluation. Very competent, thank you. I understand the law very well. You know, that's why I'm doing this, as a matter of fact, because I understand the law. Sorry, officer. Just trying to keep talking about peace, honor, dignity, you know. I'm just talking to you as another American in peace, honor, and dignity. I'm not here to fight or argue with or you know, cause any injuries or crimes to anybody, and I have not yet. Just keep saying very basic, but don't give them any information. No name, no signature, no where do you live, ID, nothing. Now, if they decide to start putting their hands on you, it's like, well, hey, you're doing this against my will. Let it be known to everybody standing here that this is being done against my will. Everybody hear that? Does anybody hear that? All right? Yeah, sure y'all do, because you're all standing here, right? You're all witnesses. I'm just saying. Now, if they pull an ID out, they're going to go, oh, this is you. That's not me. Prove that's me. Actually, you would need a psych evaluation to say that that's me, because I'm standing here and that's a piece of plastic. So it can't be me. So let's get that clear, right? Can't be me because it's a piece of plastic. You know, oh, is this, you know, well, that's your name then. No, it's not my name. As a matter of fact, that belongs to an estate. That's not me. So maybe I got somebody's ID by mistake. I don't know, but it's not me. You want to deny because in the law, the burden of proof is on the plaintiff, which is the claimant. He who makes the claim bears the burden of proof. He who denies does not. So you don't have to prove anything. You just have to deny it.
Awesome.
Right?
Awesome. Okay.
So that's how I would manage that situation. You know?
And for
then,
a misdemeanor trespassing ticket, I don't think the cop is really going to chase you down and handcuff you. Do you?
I mean, that's up to him. I'm not going to give him any reason. I'm not going to give him any reason to chase me. I'll just say, you know what? Fine. Then I will go to another store and I will press charges against this store.
Wow.
So, you know, that's it. I mean, I don't, you know, the problem is so much bigger than just us fighting these one-on-ones.
Thank you.
Know? So we have to really, really figure out what we're going to do about that problem. Right. That's where the PMAs and stuff come in. All these people that want their own businesses or have their own businesses, you know, create a PMA, man. Kick these guys right out. The Supreme Court has held up years and years that we have a right to a private assembly and private association.
And PMA stands for?
Oh, sorry, private member association.
Thank you.
Like the place,
yes.
The doctor you were
yes.
telling me about. Well, not doctor, but
practitioner.
That's all you need to do for your business. You don't have to do it, no permits, no licensing, no, as long as you're servicing a member and the member is getting their membership, you know, dues or their membership services under the membership agreement. Ain't nothing nobody can do, because number one, we have an inalienable right to assemble an association, and also the state cannot impair or impede the obligation of a contract under Article 1, Section 10. So they can't impair or impede the obligation of a private contract between me and you as long as no criminal activity is taking place. All right. So not having a license is not a crime, because what's the definition of license? Definition of license is the authority to do an act that would otherwise be a crime. That's the definition. Look it up. Look up legal definition of license. So wait a minute. You mean if I go to my neighbor's house and put a roof on, that's a crime? Right? Well, if it's not a crime, then why do I need a license to do that? You mean me and my vehicle traveling down the road is a crime? And we've already proven, I've had 2 cases where we took the tags off the cars, gave the IDs back, put our own tags on it, gave the certificate of title back, and claimed the car, put it in a trust, and right on down the road, got pulled over, confiscated the car, took my guy, you know, put him in, arrested him. And when we went into court, we went into court the first time and let the judge know who's in charge here, not you, us, and you stole our property. The next court hearing, the judge pretty much gave him everything back and said, you're the most intelligent man I've ever seen in my entire years on the bench. Now, if it's illegal to not have a license and registration and all that, why did they give him it all back and drop all charges, criminal charges, everything? And we did that twice. The second time we did it, the guy didn't get his stuff confiscated, but they did haul him into jail. But it was so clean and smooth that, you know, the judge winked at him and said, hey, you have a Merry Christmas. Yeah, dropped everything. State dropped everything. They had no way to prosecute, you know. You don't need a license. You don't need a license. Now, that's not to say, you know, anybody listening to this should go out and do that. Like, you better really know what you're doing. But we proved the point that if it was truly illegal and unlawful, why did they give it all back and drop everything? Because it's really not. It's just a smoke and mirrors game. So we need to do things to protect ourselves, to flip this thing around. I do not believe in correcting the system. The system is built and is functioning exactly the way it's supposed to. The way that the system works now is functioning like a well-oiled machine for all the slaves on the plantation. The key is you're not supposed to be on the plantation. That's the key. That system doesn't belong to you. The American real system belongs to us, and that was abandoned back when they did the first statutes at large, when they had the first session of Congress and the Judiciary Act. Everything was abandoned, and it was a whole new structure from the day they wrote, almost the day they wrote the Constitution. Okay, so all those positions and seats have all been abandoned.
So Robert, you're out of the system, aren't you?
No, you'll never. Well, I am, because I am a human being. My entity is still in the system, right? There's still a social security card there. There's still an entity with the name that was taken from me at birth. That's all still there. But I have control of it, because I know how now. I've learned, not just me, a lot of people have learned how to flip the roles on who's who in this relationship between me, the it that was created, and the government.
All right.
And once,
Can we
go
talk a
ahead.
little bit about that relationship between you and God,
Yeah,
who you are as a person with you and God, and how that plays into this?
absolutely. All your rights come from God, right? The creator, the universe, whatever you call your God. And the minute you come down the birth canal, which is, by the way, it's all based on shipping and law of the sea. Okay. So all these laws are based on law of the sea, not law of the land, which is why the Constitution has no effect in most cases, because you're not on the land, you're in the sea. You're on the sea. And this is how they do it. You come down with, all your rights from God. Mom and dad then give you to the state. The first thing your feet touch is what? The birth certificate, the birth
Ah,
registration.
ah.
You've landed on a fictional piece of land, which is paper, which is commerce. Okay. So from that point forward, you've never yet touched the soil. Okay. So you're in Satan's world right at that point. Satan is commerce. You're all in Satan's world from birth. Now you have a choice when you're 18 or of age to correct that, but nobody tells us this. Our parents could have corrected it right from the jump, but they didn't know, right? Because there's no book on it, because that's private stuff, law.
And again, this is maritime law or land law.
Yeah, that's all. It's all maritime law that they're functioning
They're
by,
functioning
right?
by. We want something called what? Land law? Equity law?
Law of the land,
Thank you.
equity,
Law of the
which is
land.
God's law. Equity is God's law, and law of the land is the Constitution and the treaties made according to the people that wrote the darn thing.
All right. I interrupted
But
you. Keep going with the baby and the whole thing.
so the baby comes down. The parents then give that over to the state so that the state can create a fictional you, and basically they use your life's labor as an asset to go get a loan from the Federal Reserve. So once the baby's born, they go to the Federal Reserve and go, look, got a live one. How much are you going to give us? Well, they might be worth $6 million by the end of their life. Here's a loan, right? That's why in the 14th Amendment it says the public debt shall not be questioned. Okay, you can't question the validity of the public debt and where it actually comes from. You're not allowed. Well, that makes it easier for them in a few years down the road in 1930s when they started this whole scheme after the Great Depression and the crash of the stock market, which was deliberate. It was just another false flag. So now they need asset. Okay, so that's what happened. They crashed the market. They had no money left. All the gold and silver, or gold, let's call it. They probably didn't deal much with silver as far as their stockpile. But when the Federal Reserve came in 1913, they said, we're going to charge you a percentage, whatever it was, 5-6%, to print all these nice little notes, which are promissory notes, right? We're going to print you this script, military script. So you're in maritime admiralty jurisdiction, okay? Admiralty is military. We're going to print you this script, and you're going to owe us 5%. Well, by the time 1929 hit, country's broke. They paid everything in compound interest. They're broke. So now let's crash the market. Let's create this false flag event, reorganize the wealth. And what do you have now, United States of America, United States? What do you have for assets? Well, we got people and land. So we're going to mortgage off our people's labor and all the land. The way that they mortgage off the labor, you come out of the womb, mom and dad put the footprints on the security agreement. There's a security agreement. The asset is lodged and deposited with the state or the United States. And then you become the debtor for that asset your entire life. Even if you've got $20 million, you're still the debtor. Okay. You're still the debtor because you haven't taken care of that organization and you're. Hold on. Let me plug this in.
Okay.
So that's really what's going on. And there's a trust relationship that's going on there. And most people have no idea what a trust is. So again, we're not educated, and that's what is killing everybody, right?
Yes.
Okay. Am I sideways?
It's sideways, though. Yeah, it's sideways.
Ah, darn it. Sorry. I got to have my charger
There you go.
plugged in.
That's good.
I'll just
No
hold
problem.
it. I'll just hold it. So yeah.
Okay.
So now what they're doing is
All right.
it's a trust relationship. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me? Okay. Okay.
I can.
So it's a trust relationship. The problem is we don't know who the trustees are, who the beneficiaries are, who the grantor is, right? Your parents were you were the grantor, your parents were the grantor for you. They granted the property over to the state. State's a trustee, you're the beneficiary. But the problem is they make you believe you're the trustee without you ever even knowing it. And actually, when you go into a court situation, it is a constructive trust, which is not really a trust. A constructive trust is used when there's someone claiming to have a right, but they don't really have one. So the court will form a constructive trust to protect the true owner. Well, when the true owner, right, even though you're standing right, that's why you need to be represented. You need to be represented because you're not present. The real you is not, and the defendant is not you. The defendant is this organization that they created, again, at birth. But the thing is, for them, they're dealing in securities and all the proceeds of the securities off of our certificates and everything that we sign, everything that's attached to that social security number creates some sort of financial obligation and also creates money. Okay, your signature creates money. That's how they print money. Without your signature, they can't print money. So you're the creditor always. You're always a creditor. When you go for a loan or a credit card or something, you're giving them credit. They're doing the shell game and dishing it back to you for a fee. But they couldn't create the money without you crediting them, without your signature. They can't do it. So it's just this whole entire inversion. And what does the Bible say? The world is backwards. Satan's world is upside down. It's backwards, right? Like Peter upside down on the cross. They're telling you in the Bible, this is how we're going to control this earth. And we're going to make this figure called Jesus to tell you how to get out of it. But you all read it literal because we're going to teach you that everything is literal, but it's really not. It's all metaphoric. The whole Bible is metaphoric. You know, so this gets so deep, man. It's like, it's just incredible.
And
So
back to the God thing. The God thing. We are the hierarchy. Isn't that the important thing? Is that we are not sovereign beings. We are heirs of the King.
Yeah. Well, Jesus said you're an heir. You're co-heirs with Christ. You're an heir to the kingdom of heaven. So the King, is God, right? That's the sovereign, and we're the co-heirs. So we're the, we're the beneficiaries of God's everything that God has. The problem is they've made themselves beneficiaries by creating this artificial entity and sucking our soul and our life energy through it. And on their spiritual card, it's fair game. They're allowed to do that. So when they die, conscience clean.
So so what we're learning right now is we can actually, because we've turned 18, we can now go and rechange our contract. How do you describe it? Our relationship, our status to the United States, to back to more of a spiritual plane of God, us, without any intermediary. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, absolutely. The thing is, though, remember, it doesn't change in the system. What changes is your understanding and how you operate. So yes, there is certain paperwork you should do to correct these certain things in the system, but it's not like they're ever just going to put a mark against your name and say, oh, don't touch them. They're hands off. They're a child of God. Not yet, but we're close. And some people have gotten to that point. Very, very few. And it's closely guarded, kept to the vest, which is kind of rightfully so, because not everybody is ready to self-govern. I'm sorry, but they're not. You look around and you see people that have no common sense. They are not ready to self-govern.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I want to ask you about, a lot of us have been having a lot of success within the system by going to grocery stores, hotels, places of public accommodation, and saying, and even the U.S. Department of Justice has put out a notice recently saying that we're going to crack down on anybody who's discriminating against race, color, disability, medical exemption, whatever. I'm not sure if the U.S. Department of Justice is putting that up just to cover their ass or what. But the point is, as we are all going into these stores and we're saying, look, you're discriminating. I have a medical exemption. I'm protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act. I'm protected by this U.S. code that says emergency use devices can't be mandated. And I'm protected by other civil rights. I'm not a direct threat. Basically, there's nothing you can do right now. And then what happens is a lot of times they acquiesce and they go, okay, fine. You can
Right.
be in our hotel, you can be in our store, whatever. In those rare cases where the police come and they write the ticket, the district attorney drops the charges because they know they can't legally hold anybody to a trespassing charge for going into Sprouts
Right.
without a mask. So I'm finding that even working within the system right here, they can't do a thing against us. The
Yeah.
reason I wanted to talk to you about talking to police is I don't know if I'm going to get some rogue police officer who's, jacked up on rage that day or whatever. And I just want to know what the wording is to sort of get him off the ledge and let him free me.
Yeah, that's the hard part, because these young cops that go out there with the Superman emblem on their chest, they don't know anything about law. So really, it doesn't matter what you say to them. You could say all the magic words, but the one thing they do know is I do not have my attorney with me, and I cannot answer anything without counsel. That's what I said. That's the buzzword: attorney, counsel. I've been advised by my attorney in these situations not to
Beautiful.
give you any information, and then they go, and you better call your superior because I'm going to get my attorney on the phone. If not, even if you don't have one, they don't need to know that. It's none of their business. That's the buzzword they recognize. Remember,
It's
these
all
are
about
just kids.
counsel, right? It's about counsel. You're
Well,
allowed to
yeah,
have counsel.
you have a right to remain silent. They're not going to read you Miranda rights anymore. They did away with that. But that doesn't mean you don't have them, you know? So, and what Miranda versus Arizona actually said was that they cannot use a rule where substantive rights are concerned. Substantive rights are your inalienable rights. They're your rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. There's substance there, not a privilege that the state gave you. So there shall be no rulemaking where a substantive right is concerned. That was the whole thing with Arizona versus Miranda. Okay. They don't read you that anymore, but you still have the right. And to invoke the right to remain silent, you have to say, I'm without counsel. I'm not saying a single word. The law says counsel. It doesn't say attorney. Now, an attorney can be a counsel, but a counsel can't be an attorney. They're two different words. And so is attorney and lawyer. They're two different words.
Love it. Love it. You're giving us the language. I really appreciate that. I have a situation at my local farmer's market where the guy forced me to wear a mask or I couldn't shop there. And he told all the vendors, unless somebody's wearing a mask, if you serve these people, you will no longer be at this farmer's market. I'm the manager, and for me, I'm like, wow, this guy just broke the law multiple ways. Now he's interfering with my right to do business, not to mention my right to purchase food. And I've told this guy repeatedly, look, man, I don't want to burn your house down because I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear a face shield whenever I'm doing business with people temporarily. Eventually, you and I are going to work this out, but I wanted to stay away from the drama initially. How would you move forward in letting this guy know that he has no right to tell a vendor at a farmer's market whether they can sell to me or not if I have a mask or not?
Well, again, that gets a little tricky because that guy has a contract with that vendor, and you're not party to that contract. So that's a little bit more, more tricky. Now, you could say, well, I understand you have a contract with these guys, but again, you're denying me a service based on the fact that you believe I need to wear a mask and you believe it's the law. And I don't think you're an attorney to tell me what the law is, number one. And number two, you're denying me a service, which is discriminating because I have a religious belief that I cannot wear that mask. I'm sorry, but I can't, you know, and I'm
So you'd
sorry if you're
rather
not
go with the
familiar.
religious belief rather than the medical exemption? Oh, I'm sorry, you froze there, Robert. Let's try that one more time. So the question is, you'd rather go with the religious belief rather than a medical exemption? We're kind of doing the frozen thing right now. Instagram's trying to connect with you. Let's see if this comes through. Yeah, organic in LA, I hear you. They don't like this conversation. Oh, all right. Maybe we'll have to hop off here and hop back on. Just going to wait another second. Okay, he's hopped off, and so he's going to hop back on. This is good. Now we'll get him in a second here when he joins. Yes, indeed, such a cliffhanger. But again, I love the religious exemption because it really flusters people because they're like, what? There's such a thing as a religious exemption? Absolutely. And by the way, folks, we're not done. Okay, here we go. View request, go live. We're not done here by a long shot, folks. I'm going to keep asking these questions until we all know what the heck is going on. There we are. Okay, so a cliffhanger there, Robert. We all want to know, would you rather use religious belief rather than medical exemption?
Well, medical exemption, they've been shutting that down, right? Because unless you actually have a physical medical exemption, then fine, you know. But if you don't have that, then now you're bluffing. Now you're in dishonor because you're lying, right?
Okay, but I have one.
So you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use that. Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. All right, so back to the manager. I can tell him, hey, you're interfering, you're denying me service, you're discriminating, you're interfering with my right to do business.
Especially if you have a medical condition, right? Now you're discriminating against me because I have a medical condition and you're not allowing me to purchase here. Like, that's, sorry, that is a civil violation of civil rights. So, yeah, that's huge. I mean, you could definitely use that.
Okay. So even it's interesting that even within the system, I'm confident that I can fight this stuff and win. All right, I want to ask you about affidavits. Have you ever used them so that you can get people to perjure themselves? You get them to sign something?
Well, it's not that you use them to get them to sign something. You use them to beat them because they 9 times out of 10 have no firsthand knowledge of the facts. All right.
So do you use affidavits?
Constantly. Hundreds. I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of affidavits. Literally.
Can you explain what an affidavit is?
An affidavit is a statement of fact sworn under oath. Now, you could do a declaration too. And a declaration is in lieu of swearing under oath in front of a notary. And there's 2 specific declarations under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, which is Title 28 of the United States Code. They use, so it's 28 USC 1746 Section 1. They use Section 2, but do you know what Section 1 says? And it's the only place you're going to find this in the code. It says, without the United States. And then it tells you what the affirmation is. I affirm, under penalty of perjury, under the laws of the United States of America, that the foregoing is true and correct. Wait a minute, you just said without the United States, so how am I swearing under the laws of the United States of America? Hello, they're telling you it's not the same place. They're not the same. If you use 1746 Section 2, that's for within the United States jurisdiction. So what I'm getting at is your oath or your affirmation under 1746 Section 1 is way more powerful than theirs under 1746-2, because Section 1 is for Americans, Section 2 is for U.S. citizens. An American has more authority than a U.S. citizen, especially when they're in your state, right?
And are you making the declaration, or are you saying something that you're having them sign, saying that they're making the
No,
declaration?
you're making the declaration of fact. And what you want to do is, in your declaration, it's called, or your affidavit, one of the two, it's called averring, right? So when you aver, you aver a fact. When you state a fact, you're averring it, right? Well, there's a thing called a negative averment. An averment is a positive statement. You're going to make a negative one. I'm without proof, knowledge, and evidence, or without proof, knowledge, and understanding that this officer has a right, right, over my God-given rights. So what you just did was you didn't make a claim. You didn't say that officer doesn't have a right over my God-given rights. That's a claim. You have to prove that. If you deny, to the contrary, if you deny that, now he has to prove that he has a right over your rights. And they can't do it because they don't have it. So when you write an affidavit, you always want to write it from a negative averment, a denial of fact, right? A denial of a claim, not a denial of a fact necessarily, but a denial of a claim. So that way, so here's what the law says is, if there's an affidavit, that's your testimony. That's like you sitting on the stand in court, okay? Same exact thing, it's no different. The other party has to rebut that affidavit point for point with truth, fact, law, and evidence, and swear to it in order for them to have any more validity or proof or evidence than you. That's why attorneys can't do affidavits. They're either an attorney or a witness, but they can't be both. So if you ever had an attorney and they did an affidavit for you, you'll see they're writing it as if you wrote it. They're just filling out the form for you and go, oh, here, you need to swear to this and sign this. Because they can't swear to anything. They can't swear to any facts. They're not a witness. They're an attorney. An affidavit is for a witness of fact. So they're not going to sign any affidavits, and they don't have to unless they write them. That's like me coming to you and saying, hey, man, you need to sign this. And you're going to go, I don't need to sign that. I need to sign that for it. You don't have to. It's, that's the law. Like, you don't have to sign that affidavit. But if you write the affidavit, not only that, here's what I would suggest too. If you know you're going to go to the grocery store, you know you're going to have a problem, bring two people with you. And they can write at the same affidavit. Now, what does the Bible say? Deuteronomy says, and many other verses, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. No man shall be put to death unless on the witness of 2 or 3 people. So if you have 2 witnesses and whoever the opposing party is, has no claim. They're out. They're done. Over. Unless they've got witnesses to the contrary. And see, most of these guys don't even know this. And they poo-poo affidavits and stuff. Like they make you think they don't do anything. It's just an affidavit. Oh, no. That's the only way we ever go into court is on affidavit and notice, nothing else. And we've shut down, I can't even tell you how many court cases, on affidavit and notice. No, no putting in motions or anything like that. None of it. Now, if you're going to file a suit, that's different. I would suggest if anybody's filing a suit, I would always file as sui juris, okay? Not pro se, sui juris, which means I'm a man in my own right, and in propria persona, which means in my proper person. Okay, it's called improper for short. Impropria persona. It's all Latin. Okay, sui juris improper. I'm a man in my own right. I'm not represented by any. Oh, you're pro se. No, I'm not pro se. You see the words, and they will try to force you because pro se means you're representing yourself. How can you represent what's present? I can't represent anything. I'm present. Period. I'm sui juris improper. Right. So if you're going to file a lawsuit, that's how I would file it, and I would demand that my name is not spelled in all capital letters. Because in the English language, there's no rule in the English language that allows for an all capital letter word to be an actual word. So when something's written in all capital letters, it's not a word. It doesn't exist. It's dead. That's why all tombstones are written in all caps, because the person is dead. Period. That's the only time in the English language that it's acceptable to use. But if you notice, all your bills, all your licenses, everything is all capital letter name. That's
And you're talking about filing suit alone, not with an attorney. Gotcha.
Right. Yes, that's more powerful than an attorney.
Thank you.
Because remember, the word. Have you ever researched the word attorn? The legal definition. The legal definition of attorn. It means to transfer. The tenant transfers his or her rights over to a new landlord. So if you have an attorney, they're performing the action of transferring the tenant's rights over to the landlord. So if you have an attorney, you must be a tenant and not the landlord. Well, how can you be on the law of the land if you're just a tenant? You don't have a right to the land because you're not the landlord. So the attorney is there to transfer your rights to the landlord. That's what they do.
Just part of the system, right?
It's just part of the system. I mean, it's not like it's their personal, they don't know this. Yeah, that's why your bill. Somebody said, so why are all bills in all caps? For that reason, because it's not you that has the account. It's your fictitious entity that the government created and owns, right?
Yeah.
So when you file a lawsuit, you want to come in that upper and lowercase, no initial, because initial is called a nom de guerre. When they use a first, middle initial, and a last name, that's a nom de guerre, and that's a name of war. That's a soldier that's owned by the state. That's why they will also write your name in upper and lowercase with a middle initial, because that too is the entity, not you. You were given a first and middle name. You do not have a last name. You have a house name. So when you write your name, you should be writing, John Henry, House of Doe. Like, have you ever watched, what's the movie, let me think of it. Game of Thrones. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, House of. They kept saying House of, because we didn't have last names up until that period. Okay. They created last names to keep track of everybody, just like they give them social security numbers. Same kind of thing is what they were doing. Oh, you're from the family lineage of the blacksmith, so your last name is Smith.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. Anyway,
Robert, this is fantastic, and I want to just tell people right now, don't worry if this has gone right over your head. We're all being introduced to these ideas, and really for right now, all you need to do is just sleep on this, soak it up, right?
And research.
Research, do the research, and can you give us some things to research, Robert?
Well, the first thing I always tell people is most important is how can you know what you're reading if you don't understand the language? So law dictionaries, you can go right online and Google any, word, just put legal definition of, because you'll be surprised. You may think you know a word, but you really don't until you read the definition, especially in the legal context. Because if legal language wasn't a separate language, why is there a dictionary, right? So that's first. Always look in the dictionary. So the things that I look at and study are equity law, civil law, common law, okay? And you don't want to get too crazy with it all. You just want to understand what it is, what it's doing, and how it's constructed. If you're going to play the game in the system, you better know court rules and procedure. Yes, Black's Law Dictionary is good. I've got 7 of them on my website. People can download for free, 7 different editions. But you can also just Google legal stuff, legal definition. I was responding to somebody in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So equity, okay. And then you want to understand how commerce works, right? Uniform Commercial Code, because everything is commerce. This is all about maritime admiralty, right? So maritime is commerce, admiralty is military law. Okay. So people ask me all the time, where can I get this information? But it's scattered in all these books. It's not, and this is only one book. It's only one encyclopedia. Like there's a whole other one, and then there's tons of registers and stuff like that for court precedents and all that. That's if you want to get into the legal world, which is really Satan's world. Legal is all about the system. That's all Satan stuff. Law is simple. Okay. Equity is law. Equity is God's law. So you can look that up on uslegal.com, law of equity. And
Thank you.
Under the definition, there's like 6 definitions. The first one says it's God's law. It's natural law.
Love it. Love it. Okay. That's enough right now for me to start going into. And then when people do want to pull themselves out of the system, there are folks like you that can help them. There are documents they can fill out that they can file, and then they can begin to get themselves out of slavery and own their own equity and their own name and who they are.
Well, yeah. So the issue is where we're at now. And believe me, there's been guys doing this for 30 years trying to crack this thing, okay? Is you can fill out the paper, but you're going to get questioned by the gatekeepers, whoever they might be, the woman down at the court. You might try to record something and they might stump you. And you're like, and they're like, well, what are you trying to do here? We can't record, So the paper is just the paper.
Yeah.
If you don't understand how to back that up, it will fail. So what I see is a lot of people, they go, oh, they come running to somebody that's got some sort of, what I call a patriot freedom procedure. And they're like, oh, that'll save me from my legal issue or whatever. So they fill this paper out and then they go, oh, it didn't work. And so I've come, and the big thing is it didn't work. So I've come to my own saying is that it didn't work. It's you didn't work. That's why it didn't work, right?
And we learn each time we make a mistake, and we can go back in there and get it right again.
Absolutely. But you have to understand the substance behind it, and that's why I'm trying to teach people. What I try to do is I try to give people like the straight and narrow to understand this stuff rather than having to do the 12 years that I've had to do in all that research.
Yeah.
Because I learned a lot of stuff I'll never use. You know?
All right. So go ahead.
It gave me the substance to understand. That's one,
Yeah.
Good
All right. So I want to reiterate. It's REM Private Management. Mm-hmm. I did a search on the internet today, and I was able to find both of your things: the House of Marcus and a YouTube channel in which you're giving a lot of information there. So I want to direct people to that if they want to search more. I will be talking about this more. I hope to talk to Robert more. I have to do my own research, and then I can come back and ask more informed questions. But for now, I just want to stop it here. Our minds are blown. And I want to save this so that people can watch it again and again. And hopefully we'll get a lot. Kind of figure out where to go from here. So thank you so much, Robert. And really appreciate what you've given us.
Can I just, again, somebody's asking what the YouTube is again.
Yeah.
So it's REM Private Management. Maybe we can type it in the comments. REM Private Management.
Got it.
And then the website is Private Estate Trust, all spelled out, .org.
Okay. And I'm just going to say that if people do this search for this, they're going to be able to find, I'm going to pin that comment. They're going to be able to find your House of Marcus site.
They should be, yeah. I don't have a lot of SEO stuff and all because it's all got to remain private. That's the key, right?
Yeah.
So, the government could come after me for certain things that I'm saying and doing, but that's why I have an NDA. They're going to have to sign my NDA to get to my website to use anything against me. And guess what? Can't do it because you signed a contract.
Amen. Amen. All right. Excellent. All right. Okay. Thanks so much, Robert. I'm going to save this and then people can watch it.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I look forward to chatting with you some more.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.